Good evening, these are the stories making the headlines in the Hot 7 Nightly News.
A Grand Riviera resident escapes death after a wall collapses on his home during adverse weather conditions. Torrential rains drench the island, leaving the National Emergency Management Organization to pick up the pieces. And the public is warned to brace for a major, long overdue earthquake.
This is the Hot 7 Nightly News with Lovely and Amy Joseph.
It is Monday, the 12th of November, 2018. Welcome to the Hot 7 Nightly News. I am Lovely St. Amy Joseph. One homeowner is counting himself lucky for making it out of his home alive after a retaining wall came crumbling down and destroyed a large portion of his home, as well as crushing a pickup truck that belonged to one of his tenants. The resident of Inglewood, Grand Riviera, spoke with Hot 7 News and says that he made many complaints to the Housing and Urban Development Foundation and the Ministry of Infrastructure to no avail. Solange Alfred reports.
I thank God. I couldn't believe that I survived what I saw. If you all saw, well, there are pictures if you want me to give it to you of what the bed looked like, and just the space where I was lying down had no rubble.
These are the sentiments of homeowner John Dovey, who is counting his blessings after a wall came crashing into his home whilst he slept on the night of Saturday 10th November around midnight. Dovey provided Hot 7 News with an assessment of the damage that was caused by the degenerated structure, and he also conveyed the extent to which this problem has been persisting.
We saw that the wall had fallen onto the Jeep, as well as damage in my living room area downstairs and the bedroom where I'm sleeping. Now, this is a situation that has been recurring from 1999. The wall was built in 1996, and by 1999, I had seen cracks in it. In fact, it was leaning forward. It was badly built, and I hate to say that, but they hate to hear me say that. It was badly built, and I have been writing and going to the ministry. In fact, it was HUDC I started with, which now became NHC, and then Communications and Works at the time, Infrastructure at this time. And they kept on saying that they had not built the wall until information was, because I wouldn't build that wall and not add 2 rooms to my little house. Eventually, they came to look at it and they said that there was a problem with the water at Mont Sepa and that they would deal with it.
Hot 7 News caught up with Chief Engineer Albert Jean-Baptiste at the Ministry of Infrastructure to find out more about the wall of disaster. Jean-Baptiste expressed his regret with the situation, whilst highlighting that there are processes that must be taken into account when situations like these occur.
First of all, I am not aware that the wall was built by this ministry. Actually, the infrastructure there is actually part of an HUDC development, which was undertaken many, many years ago. And I think you said 1996. That's quite some time ago. So I cannot tell you with any level of veracity that the wall was built by the Ministry of Infrastructure. I know that indeed the complaint has been made. We did dispatch our officers to look at it. We did come up with a design which was almost $500,000, and that was tabled essentially with at the higher level of the ministry. To be on the safe side, it is important that some level of dialogue be carried out with HUDC with respect to determining the way forward. Because whoever built that infrastructure has to take responsibility for the designs. That's automatic. Because the designs was not done by this ministry.
Dovey stated to Hot 7 News that he hopes the issue will be addressed speedily.
What I hope to come out of it is that by today, Monday the 12th of November, infrastructure can at least put a backhoe or something to clear the dirt so that I can find a way to block off the 2 holes that I slept with for 2 nights, as you all will see in the footage, and that they can start to do something. They can decide to build a wall later, but my house has to get repaired, because all those warnings that I've given to them, something has to be done.
Dovey considers himself lucky to have only escaped with minor bruises to his legs. He estimates the damage to be over $120,000, with the pickup truck estimated at $100,000. Reporting for Hot 7 News, I am Solange Alfred.
The director of NEMO is reminding the masses not to get complacent when it comes to disaster preparedness and to not wait until the alert has been sent out to have their procedures and plans in place. The reminder comes after a weekend of torrential rains put a damper on the island. Rochelle Gonzalez reports.
As the island recovers from a trough system which came with torrential rains over the weekend, the director of the National Emergency Management Organization, Velda John, is once again warning the masses to stay on guard and not become complacent with their disaster preparedness plans and procedures. John said NEMO has been making the concerted effort to educate the masses on the heavy emphasis of hurricanes and cyclones. She said whilst there is more that can be done on the part of the organization, people need to do their part to remain safe as well.
We need to probably rethink the strategy in terms of public education, information sharing, to ensure that persons take an all-hazards approach to their preparedness. We have seen, based on our experience, that we have had impact from trough systems, we have had impact from tropical waves. So it is not that we need to wait until there's a warning issued for a hurricane. Just torrential rains. November 2016, we had torrential rains that caused significant impacts in the Bextor area and in Grizzly. So again, it is an all-hazards approach. We ought to prepare for the worst-case scenarios, and we ought to think outside the box. Just make sure our preparedness plans give consideration to everything possible.
John said, as was indicated in a report sent out by NEMO on Friday, the rains were expected and once again the island was spared from total disaster.
We have received reports from most of the districts, nothing significant in terms of impacts or damage to infrastructure. We received some reports of overflowing rivers, which would have caused temporary interruptions to vehicular traffic. We received reports of minor landslides in some areas, but aside from that, we seem to have escaped the brunt of the system. We also had reports of fallen trees in the Badlil, which is a sort of recurrent theme. When it rains, we do receive reports of fallen trees in the Badlil. But as I said, overall, we did not receive significant reports of impacts to infrastructure.
The NEMO director said, with climate change, there have been numerous unusual occurrences, and according to research, the hazards are likely to become more intense. It is with this in mind that she encouraged the public to prepare for any event that could possibly happen and to pay close attention to the weather reports, which are issued 3 times a day by the St. Lucia Meteorological Office. Reporting for Hot 7 News, I am Rochelle Gonzalez.
Thank you very much, Rochelle. The Chief Engineer in the Ministry of Infrastructure, Ports and Energy is urging residents to practice better solid waste disposal amidst the recent flooding brought on by heavy rain. The Chief Engineer spoke with Hot 7 News where he sought to address the issue of drainage in Castries and also flood-prone communities of Bexon and Mark. More from Solange Alfred.
As heavy rains persisted throughout the weekend of the 10th and 12th November 2018, the issue of proper drainage within the city of Castries has entered the spotlight. The city has garnered a notorious reputation for becoming flooded out very quickly with the onset of bad weather. According to Chief Engineer in the Ministry of Infrastructure, Ports and Energy, Albert Jean-Baptiste, the problem persists due to a combination of several factors, which includes the improper disposal of solid waste. However, he stated the issue has not yet been properly addressed because of key requirements that have yet to be followed through.
The reason why the drainage issue has not been addressed as it should have been is that it requires an amount of study, a certain level of commitment of resources, financially and otherwise, in order to look at what the issues are. One of the things I've done with my staff is encourage them to go out there and actually map the areas of concern. That is, when the rains are falling heavily, go out there, walk through the city, and you can see where you have the issues. And the issues are generally identified by the puddles that develop, the flooding that develops. We must understand that the drainage system in Castries is archaic. It is very old.
Jean-Baptiste went on to state that in addition to the archaic drainage system in the city of Castries, what further compounds the issue of poor drainage and maximizes the flooding in the city is the development of communities around the Castries Basin.
The city of Castries is an area of confluence. When you look at all the ravines that's coming down, that's where they join together. And as a result, because the drains do not have the capacity to handle the volume of water that's coming down, you will get that level of flooding.
Jean-Baptiste advised residents of Castries and surrounding areas that the proper disposal of solid waste should help in minimizing the levels of flooding within the city. Speaking on the issue of flooding, Hot 7 News sought to find out whether desilting works, spearheaded by Minister of Housing and Urban Renewal Guy Joseph, was effective during the recent torrential weather.
Desilting does help. Maybe it needs to be done on a more regular basis. The work that was done in Bexon Mark with respect to the desilting would definitely have reduced the risk of flooding. But guess what happens? Because of the farming that takes place in the surrounding areas, because do not forget when you have a floodplain, it's generally like in a valley, and so you have with increased precipitation, you get a greater level of siltation because of the silt coming down from the highlands, right? So you are likely to get a rapid increase in siltation over time.
According to Jean-Baptiste, he believes that frequent desilting should be carried out in flood-prone areas as a short-term fix. However, for a long-term solution, dike structures and new bridges with greater hydraulic capacity should be the way forward. Reporting for Hot 7 News, I am Solange Alfred.
In other news, the driver of a Honda car reportedly fled the scene of a vehicular accident after his vehicle crashed into the railings near the Gablewoods Mall and collided with 3 other vehicles in the mall's parking lot. The accident occurred on Sunday, the 11th of November, around 4 p.m. and involved the Honda registration number PD4367. More in this report.
The scene of bent metal railings in the parking lot of the Gablewoods shopping mall tells the tale of a disastrous weekend when the driver of a Honda registration number PD4367 crashed into the railings of the parking lot and damaged 3 parked vehicles on Sunday 11th November around 4 p.m. Eyewitnesses say that the vehicle was speeding towards Castries when the driver lost control and came to a crashing halt. The driver of the Honda vehicle fled the scene of the accident after the collision. No injuries have been reported as a result of the incident, and communication with law enforcement officials also indicated that no reports have been filed with the police in relation to the accident. Reporting for Hot 7 News, I am Solange Alfred.
This is the Hot 7 Nightly News. Still to come, the region is being asked to brace for a possible earthquake, and the Justice Minister expresses disappointment in the recent CCJ vote in neighboring islands. Stay with us.